I had to start over. So here I have the watercolor palette. This is a Tom Jones palette, and you see it has a lot of areas so that you can mix your watercolors. I also have a spray gun, and normally before I start painting, I just go through and wet those paints because they dry up. And you can just use them over and over like that. If you don't have a palette, you can use, I don't know, egg cartons, those plastic egg cartons, in one of Mom's pans. Then I'm gonna let you know that we have different mediums. You know, you can use paper. Here we have Arches watercolor blocks. I use them a lot. That's because they keep the paper tight and it doesn't bubble, so the watercolor doesn't, you know, go all over. So these are really good, these blocks, when you're first learning. Another thing that I use, this is an aqua board. It is clay board, so it gives the watercolor a very different look, and it's a little different to paint on. It takes a little bit of adjusting, but as you can see, you don't have to put it under glass. So these you know, they're a little difficult to paint on, but again, you can do it without glass. You can paint all different things. So here I have landscapes. You could actually go outside and paint your sidewalk with the trees and the clouds, and those are natural clouds, not IBM clouds. You can also just put some of your belongings together in a pile and arrange them and sketch and paint those. Here I have a bunch of gifts I was bringing home to my granddaughter when I was visiting in Washington. I was in a class, so I learned how to paint them still life. Or, sorry about that, probably make you guys dizzy. Here I was on the back of a boat and I took a photo, and so I used that photo as a photo reference, and I painted the wake in the back of the boat. And one of the things I want you kids to notice is that there's always shapes. So, and you try to bring the people into your paintings by using big shapes. So here, I think this painting really shows that the shapes. Now I'm going to take you over, and sorry, I tried to put everything out so I could show you. These are pastels. We have different kinds of easels that we use. This is a tabletop easel. You know, it closes up and it opens up. It's got a drawer on it. So if I'm I usually paint outdoors right out here on my deck, because pastels can be a little messy. So if you could sit out on the deck and do them, that's good. Maybe if you can't, you use tin foil with a little wet paper towel and it'll catch all the dust. Because these are soft pastels, they tend to have a little bit of dust. I use UArt paper and or Pastel Premier, and I get that. All of the supplies you can usually get at Dick Blick. So if you guys haven't checked that out, that's a really good store. So again, this I painted, this is my front yard, and this is a photo reference. So I'll take the photo and then I'll put in the colors that I see. And as you can see, I see a lot of colors. So, and I use a lot of colors. And as I'm painting and I'm using from the palette, the boxes of pastels, as I'm using each pastel in the painting, I'll put it on a paper towel. And that way, or a little box with a paper towel in it. So I know if I have to stop in the middle of the painting, I can come back and I'll have the exact pastels I was using for that. I'm going to take you over here and show you, this is a plein air easel. So that folds up, but I take that out when I'm doing plein air painting. And, you know, all you would need is you know, a set of pastels. You really don't need much more than that with the paper. I use this foam core. I just attach the paper to it. But here I have two sets. I have a Pocket Landscape by Lynn Aselta. It's Jack Richardson's soft pastels. And I have a set of Sennelier soft pastels. These are from France, and these are half sticks. And I did this particular painting with these two sets. And then, you know, this is what you would do outside. You would do a smaller painting. And then when I come home, sometimes I take those smaller paintings and I'll do a larger one. This is a large pastel, and this is done of our river here that goes right by our little town of Bath. I live in Bath, Maine, and so I do a lot of scenes from Bath. Now, these are oil paints. I use Holbein Aqua oils, and the reason I use these is because you can wash them with, you know, clean up with soap and water, and you don't have to use the harsh chemicals. So, you know, if you're going to get into oils, you might want to try using these first. The other ones, you have to have a lot of solvents and stuff. So these just, they mix well. They dry quickly. You can get a drying agent, which I use, or walnut oil, and that helps them dry quickly. These are palette knives, and I paint often just with palette knives, and sometimes I just buy the brushes at Home Depot and Lowe's, because sometimes they don't clean up that well, and you know, they're kind of disposable. So you can actually get the real cheapy ones and you don't have to fuss with so much cleaning up. Now, as far as what I paint on, there are these boards. These are canvas boards. You can buy them in bulk, and they come, and so you have quite a bit of things to paint from. Over here, I use stretched canvases. So these are stretched canvases. And this process that I use is I paint the canvas, and this is a board, by the way. So this is a big birch board. I paint either on canvases or board. And what I do is I paint orange underneath. In these cases, for these paintings, these are little scenes from around our town here. And they're done, these two paintings are done with just palette knife. With the oil paintings. But before I did that, I took a little bit of this ink wash, so you can just get a little bit of an acrylic ink and do an underpainting. So I first used a little pencil and I sketched kind of the shapes and stuff. If you can see here, I did some shapes, and then I went with the ink and did the shadows, you know, where I thought it was going to be dark. In darker, and this one's a little bit dark. So you do all your shaping. So as you can see, we have big shapes here. So whenever you're going to do a painting or a drawing, you want to stick with shapes, and you want to bring people into your painting. So think about that when you're sketching out. You know, you just see, does it bring you into the painting? Here I've done a lighthouse. This is our lighthouse down at Fort Williams. And here I did use a brush for the sky. A lot of times I'll use my fingers to blend on the board, but in this case I think I used a brush. And then the palette knife. All this is palette knife work, and I'll just zoom in so you can see that. And if you see, I use a lot of different colors. And usually when we paint stuff that's far away, it's a lighter color. And then as you come forward, in your foreground, you make it a little bit darker to give your painting depth. I also did this one. Here's another lighthouse. I do quite a few of those because I live in Maine and we have many lighthouses. This one here, this one was probably done with Williamsburg paint, which is not water soluble, but same process. I use and I use my finger. I can show you that. I can use my finger really blending the sky. And then down here I use the palette knife. So, and you know, I am not shy about using colors. People know that about me. So really, you know, and if you can see the land, you know, the land in the background is lighter. We have a couple sailboats, and we have a little fort out here. You know, we have forts all over Maine in the waters, and they're just beautiful. But those are the mediums. For oils also, I don't like to waste my oils. So when I'm finished painting, when I have leftovers, I just take a small thing and I play around and you know, if I do a little bit of abstract stuff. Here I did a street scene, and that was with paints that I just, you know, couldn't throw away. Here I also have this one I just did, and this is on a board. You see these pressed, I guess it's like a wood pressed board, and this is all done with palette knife. I don't use a brush at all with that, but I'll zoom in so you guys can see the colors. I use every color in the rainbow, I'm sure. And then here is another one, and I'm going to zoom in for you to see the colors in this. And these were all done with the water soluble oils. Let's see, one more here. So, and these are smaller paintings. I paint small and I paint large. I often do the same painting. So I'm going to show you this here one. So I showed you earlier that I did it in watercolor. And then I did it in, I just finished this one in pastel. And oh, by the way, when you're doing the pastels, I put mine in these plastic sleeves to keep them, and then I press hard on them so that the pastel doesn't, you know, get dusty in there. But so I do usually I'll paint the same painting in all three mediums. The next one here will be oil. But I just wanted to show you the different things that are used in the painting process. And I'll go through it again. I'll just kind of go around again to show you. Of course, you probably need some good lights. But again, here you want to paint. You want to if you don't like looking at a white canvas or a white sheet of paper, color it first, and maybe it's not so intimidating. You can then start layering on your colors. Well, with that, I am gonna set up and try to do a little demo for you guys. So I'm gonna stop this, and then I'll start another session here. So thank you.